Ooh! What's up, GameLeapers? It is the Jizz, and I thought I'd do our best 15 top laners video for 11-13 nice and early so our friends over at Pro Guys can copy it. And yes, in the next 10 minutes or so, you are going to find out the most broken champions for top lane in the upcoming 11-13 patch. And what's exciting is that there are 2 brand new items hitting the Rift that are honestly going to determine who the big guns are. Now, speaking of big guns, I am massive. Now, but legit, I want you to check out our big gun of a website, GameWeek.com, because I know that if you are hard stuck, if you are struggling to win games, we can save you. Our challenge to tier videos that are uploaded daily are made by the cream of the crop, so you can become a part of that cream as well. So join thousands of others and get signed up. Links in the description and comment section. Alright, so let's get into the countdown, and starting off at number 15 is Kayle. And the reason Kayle is actually on this countdown is quite simple. The recent buffs for her range and her passive have made her strong, but what's also really good for Kayle is her build at the moment. So Nasus 2 from Riftmaker, 2 items that work really well with Kayle because of the on-hit, the attack speed, and the AP. This gives you enough power to not only survive but also dominate until level 16, and when you do get to level 16 and you get access to that extra range that Riot have given you recently, this is where you take over and it is all but GG. So Kayle comes in at number 15 because her build is strong, the recent buffs have also made her strong, and with the change to Strikebreaker next patch so there isn't going to be a dash in it, this means that you're going to be safer in lane, the enemy mythic power spike isn't going to be as strong, so you can scale and scale and scale and then end the game. Now, beating Kayle to the number 14 spot is a fellow champion beginning with the letter K, and this is Kled. And Kled has been very strong all season, and one of the main reasons Kled is really good is because he can go either Gore Drinker or Sunfire Aegis, which got buffed recently. But if you're aware of what's happening next patch, guys, you might say to me, well, Black Cleaver is getting nerfed, so why would you go Gore Drinker, Black Cleaver, and then Steris Gauge, for example? Well, this is where the Sunfire Aegis and Steris Gauge build comes into play, but what's also interesting next patch is the new Hullbreaker item, and I'm sure by now you're all aware of what's happening with this item. You can see it on your screen now. This is going to make your split pushing insane. And the only reason Kled isn't actually higher on this countdown is simply because there are going to be other champions who can abuse the new Hullbreaker a little bit more. But still, Kled will be very strong, so he comes in at number 14. Now, beating Kled to the number 13 spot is a fellow Sunfire Aegis abuser, and this is Shen. And Shen for the entire season, guys, has been one of these tank top laners who can not only trade with pretty much every champion in the top lane, but he also brings that utility to a team. And thanks to the recent buffs to your late game ultimate, this means that when you ult onto your teammates, they are not going to die, and you can win the fight single-handedly just by pressing R. Now, I've mentioned the Xpedu build for Shen multiple times on this channel, so the Turbo Chem Tank, the Redemption and Mikhail's Crucible setup, and this synergizes really well with the recent buffs to your ultimate because you're giving your carries a massive shield that will keep them alive in team fights and get you into that fight, because sometimes the carry that you're ulting would die before you get there. That no longer happens with this setup, but whatever build you go on Shen, still really good in lane, still bringing that team fighting aspect, so he comes in at number 13. Now, beating Shen to the number 12 spot on this countdown is Mordekaiser, and a bit like Kayle, Mordekaiser is a great abuser of the new Riftmaker. Well, not really new, it's just the Riftmaker has been buffed recently, so your trading potential is a lot scarier. And I think what's also great for Mordekaiser is that in the top lane, the itemization against Mordekaiser and AP champions really isn't that great. Like, if you think about AD champions, you've still got Bramblefest, you've got Warden's Mail, Plated Steel Caps, but for AP champions, yeah, okay, Mercury Treads are there, but what about, well, Hex Drinker? It's not the best item, and QSS, no one wants to build it that early because you store your other items. So Mordekaiser comes in at number 12, guys, because he is pretty strong at the moment with Riftmaker as well, and the itemization to actually cuck Mord isn't really there at the moment. Now, beating Mord to the number 11 spot on this countdown is Camille, and Camille has dropped off a little recently just because there are so many other champions who are so good. But still, with the new Divine Sunderer, Camille is still wreaking havoc on the Rift and has one of the highest win rates in higher relos in the top lane right now. But there's another reason she isn't higher on this countdown, and that's simply because the new items, so Hullbreaker and Anathema's Chains, these can be abused on other champions. And Camille, though the AD is obviously useful, the health, yeah, it's not really that important unless maybe you were to go Titanic Hydra as the second item. So in terms of itemization in 11-13, yes, Divine Sunderer is great, but from that point onwards, there are other champions who spike harder with other major items. Now, beating Camille, guys, to the number 10 spot is Wukong. And similar to Camille, of course, Wukong is building Divine Sunderer, but unfortunately next patch, the reason he's dropped off so much is because Black Cleaver is getting nerfed, and that movement speed, you're just getting less of it, which means you're not going to have as much stickiness. But the great thing for Wukong is that you do have like 3 dashes in your kit, you have 2 ultimates, so innately you do have stickiness. So it's not that big of a deal, but like Camille, there are just other champions in the top lane next patch that are going to synergize better with the new items and are just stronger by default. Now, one of these champions is Lee Sin, and Lee Sin is even getting nerfs next patch, so how can he be coming in at number 9? Well, the reason is quite simple, guys. Yes, your ease damage at later ranks is getting nerfed, but guess what? At level 1, this is still doing 100 magic damage, and even though Black Cleaver is getting nerfed, Lee Sin and Gore Drinker, can you name a more frustrating combination to play against? The sustain, the damage, the health, the setup in lane, the wave clear. Like, there's pretty much no weakness. And this is why you're seeing him in pro play played in the top lane all the time. As for this next champion as well, which is Nocturne coming in at number 8. And similarly to Lee Sin, Nocturne has a lot of that sustain, the wave clear, the early game pressure, the setup as well, and also the map influence, which is a big positive. But what's great for Nocturne next patch, guys, is the new Stride Breaker. Now, I mentioned earlier that Stride Breaker's dash is going. It's gone. But this is where it gets real whack, guys, and this is where we love the Riot Balance team. They are increasing its slow to 90%. Now, yes, this is decaying. 90% for 3 seconds would be too crazy, but still 90% slow when you use this active. Now, think about Nocturne as well. How easy is it for you to jump on enemy champions? Well, it is easy because of your ultimate, of course. So when you ult onto the enemy carry, you use your Stride Breaker, they cannot escape. And this means you're going to get more kills, influence the map, and just win more games. So Nocturne has to come in at number 8. Now, beating Nocturne to the number 7 spot, and if you guys are enjoying these countdowns, let me know by leaving a like down below, is Riven, who was actually last patch's number 1. So why has Riven all of a sudden gone down to number 7? Well, Riven is getting nerfed, so the shield in your E isn't going to be shielding you for as much. But here's the thing, Riven isn't strong because of the shield she gets from her E. It's the fact that she can get this shield so often, and also the fact that this little dash starts off so many of your combos and actually cancels a lot of your animations, so your combos are just quicker and cleaner. Now, if you pair this with Gore Drinker and Lucidity Boots' ability haste, later in a game, you can be Eing every 3 seconds, which is ridiculous, right? So it doesn't really matter what the shield value is. Like, even if Riot were to completely gut the shield, it wouldn't really have that much of an impact. But as I said, for Lee Sin and Wukong, Black Cleaver is getting nerfed, so you're losing a bit of power here. But still, with Gore Drinker, with Black Cleaver, with Steris Gauge, whatever you decide to go, Death Dance, Riven is still going to be very strong in the top lane, so she comes in at number 7. Now, beating Riven to the number 6 spot on the countdown is Rumble. And Rumble, like Riven, like Lee Sin, is getting nerfed next patch. But the nerf to your W's cooldown is going to be felt a lot more by Rumble jungle players. And yes, okay, the other nerf to your W, so you're getting less movement speed at each rank. This might impact your ability to gap close and to escape ganks and just to make plays in general, roaming around the map, etc. But a bit like the Riven nerf, it's not really that big of a deal because you're keeping so much of your strength. The early game pressure, the oppressiveness, the wave clear, the strong item build or sorcerer shoes and Hextech Rocket Belt, this is a mean combination. So the Junkyard Yordle has to come in at number 6. Now, starting off the top 5, guys, the champion who doesn't really have the highest win rate in the top lane, this is Icarly. But for Icarly, she is super strong. Why? Well, like with Rumble, Hextech Rocket Belt, Sorcerer's Shoes, your level 6 power spike, it's very scary to play against. Also for Icarly in the top lane, guys, the reason I really like her is that she counters so many melee champions, and in the top lane most of the time, you are going to be playing against melee champions. Her Shroud, her passive, it's easier to land your E against melee champions because you can just jump onto them. And the new Riftmaker as well really helps into bruisery matchups who you might not necessarily be able to blow up straight away. So Icarly comes in at number 5. Now, beating her to the number 4 spot is Fiora. Now, Fiora next patch, guys, with Gore Drinker, Ravenous Hydra, you could even think about going the new Hullbreaker and potentially even the new Anathema's Chains on her. This is why she comes in at number 4. But the reason she isn't in the top 3 is simply because these 3 champions are going to be abusing the new items a lot more than Fiora. But still, with Gore Drinker, the sustain, the ability haste, the attack damage, the health, and then with Ravenous Hydra as well, which gives you that wave clear that you need, it gives you more damage, more ability haste. Like, she is still going to be extremely hard to beat in the 1v1, so Fiora comes in at number 4. Now, into the top 3, guys. First of all, I want to tell you about the GameWeek website just one more time, just give me a few seconds, because it is the most elite learning resource on the internet, guys. You know why? Because the Jizz is on it. That's why. I'm on that. So if you want to hear me a bit more talk about the game, talk about champions, talk about roles, talk about macro, micro, decision making, mental, it is there for all of you to access, so get signed up, don't miss out, links down below. Now, starting off the top 3 is Trundle, and you might be like, Trundle, where on earth did he come from? Well, he came from under the bridge, of course. No, I'm just trolling. But seriously, next patch Trundle is going to be really good, guys, because yes, Divine Sundra, Titanic Hydra, very strong, but Hullbreaker and Anathema's Chains, it's like these 2 items were designed for a champion like Trundle because of his sustain and because of his 1v1 potential. And you might be wondering, well, Fiora has 1v1 potential, so why doesn't she synergize as well as Trundle with the new items? Well, it's quite simple. Trundle benefits a lot more from the new stats these 2 items are giving rather than Fiora. And to be honest, I think this is actually going to be a really sleeper pick next patch, even though I think it's going to be broken, and this is why Trundle is coming in at number 3. I think you guys should start playing him as soon as the patch hits before he gets banned or nerfed or just something happens to him, because I think he's going to be that broken. Now, beating Trundle, another champion who's going to be that broken, is of course Yorick. And same deal here. Divine Sundra, and then you've got Hullbreaker and Anathema's Chains. These 2 items are designed for all of these top 3 picks, I swear. It's going to give you that power in the split push, the power in the 1v1, and it's going to get to the point where, like, if the enemy team doesn't have 5 Grievous Wounds and 5v1s you, you are going to be winning every single game. Like, even if you're 0-3 in lane because you've been camped by the enemy jungler, it doesn't matter. You get your Divine Sundra, you get your Hullbreaker, and then Anathema's Chains after that. It is GG. Now, beating Yorick to the number 1 spot, guys, is Susan. And for you Nasus players out there, it has been one one heck of a season so far, and it is about to get even better. Why? Well, those two new items again, Hullbreaker and Anathema's Chains. And Anathema's Chains is the real interesting one because of the passive that's coming with it. Now, the passive that actually works off its active, so when you select an enemy champion, you're going to be taking reduced damage from that champion, and when you get to max stacks, that enemy champion is going to have their tenacity cut. Now, why is this really important for Nasus? Well, if you think about it, you have CC in your Wither, of course. So when you do Wither an enemy champion with that reduced tenacity, there is no way you lose the 1v1, and this would even be useful in team fights if you did, of course, decide to fight with your team, which might be a really bad decision in most games, but still, it gives you that option of doing so. So Nasus with Divine Sunderer, Frozen Heart, Hullbreaker, Anathema's Chains, no one is going to be able to 1v1 you and touch you next patch, so he comes into the top spot for 11-13. And those are the 15 best top lanes for the next patch, guys. Please let me know in the comments what you think, and until tomorrow's upload, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell, by the way. This has been the Jizz. Bye!